Hello and welcome, my name is Reese and today I'm going to be speaking to you about one of our channel partners, BITDEFENDER. Forever Motorsports is proudly supported by BITDEFENDER, one of the global leaders in cybersecurity. Stay safe with the most consistently top-rated antivirus of the last 10 years and counting. To protect yourself from cyber attacks, protect your browsing and personal information, and so much more, get BITDEFENDER. With BITDEFENDER's premium VPN, digital privacy and freedom is as easy as flicking on a light switch. Bank, stream, and download without exposing a single byte of personal information. Unblock your favorite streaming sites and get access to content that you want to watch on up to 10 devices today. Effective, invisible, and amazingly affordable. Use the link in the description to get started.
There was once a day that I would pray for you. I'd go and misbehave just so you'd notice too. Sneaking looks up and down from across the room. Damn, what a hell of a view. I feel good, you look great. I like you, I can't wait. A first time, a first date. You're so fine, I'm so late. You sip wine, I drink straight. Don't waste time to my place. I feel my heart erase. So catch me if I fall. Praying that this night's gonna last. You got it all on tap. I'm loving your vibe, always have your back. We like all the same tracks. Listen all night in the sheets all black. Said I'm falling fast. Don't remember life before you, that's facts. I feel good, you look great. I like you, I can't wait. A first time, a first date. You're so fine, I'm so late. You sip wine, I drink straight. Don't waste time to my place. I feel my heart erase. So catch me if I fall.
Hello everyone and welcome to Forever Sports. As one of the leading channels in the world providing free coverage of all of your favourite sports, we are asking for your support. Everything that we create at Forever Sports is available for free and always will be. To help us continue delivering high quality content, as well as expanding our coverage, we are asking you to consider supporting the channel by becoming a channel member. As part of the Forever Sports Members Club, you will gain access to select perks, such as exclusive stickers and emojis to use during our watch-alongs and live streams. You will also gain early access to premium content, as well as have your name listed on the channel under channel members. We strive to deliver quality content that is unmatched by other channels, and are always looking to take things up another level. And our members give us the chance to do this. It is thanks to our members and other support that we get from our fans that we are able to deliver campaigns such as the France 2023 on-the-ground coverage. So if you would like to continue supporting the channel and the free coverage that it provides, be sure to check the link in the description to become a channel member now. Hello and welcome to Forever Motorsports. My name is Reese and today we are going to be going over the practice 3 session for Formula 1. Major news going into the session is the fact that Logan Sargent is no longer going to be taking place in this Formula 1 weekend, as he is going to have to give up his car for Alex Albon after that crash that he had yesterday. Albon damaged the chassis of that car beyond repair. And unfortunately, they did not bring enough spare parts, and they did not bring a spare chassis to Australia, did Williams. So they're going to have to forfeit Logan Sargent's weekend for Alex Albon, who has the higher chance of scoring points. So very disappointing for Logan Sargent.
There was once a day that I would pray for you. I'd go and misbehave just so you'd notice too. Sneaking looks up and down from across the room. Damn, what a hell of a view. I feel good, you look great. I like you, I can't wait. A first time, a first date. You're so fine, I'm so late. You sip wine, I drink straight. Don't waste time to my place. I feel my heart erase. So catch me if I fall.
Too much for Alex Albon. Just watching his car getting recovered from yesterday, it did take quite a lot of damage, as I said, taking extensive damage to the tub and the chassis, and also breaking the front right tire completely off, damaging, I think, the gearbox as well. So there was just a lot of damage on that car, leading to them having to retire that chassis from this race weekend. Once again, very disappointing that we have Logan Sargent out, but I was saying a little bit earlier to my director, what has he really done to help the team, to add to the Williams team so far? He's only scored points once in his entire Formula 1 career since he started, and hasn't done anything way too exciting in Formula 1, or hasn't really done all that much, especially in a car that we've seen has been quite competitive. But looking forward to the rest of this race weekend, we still have qualifying later on this afternoon, as well as then, of course, the race tomorrow. We have 7 minutes and 20 seconds left to get going until the start of the session. So do be sure to let me know in the comment section who you are supporting for this race weekend, as well as where you are watching in from, as we just have a couple of minutes left to get going. It is not as sunny as it was out yesterday afternoon. The temperature has fallen quite a bit. It is now 26 degrees track temperature compared to yesterday's 30 degrees Celsius, and the air temperature is now 17 degrees compared to yesterday's 20 to 25 degrees Celsius, and the wind is a lot lower, so we should see a little bit less mistakes in those high-speed chicanes. But we still have to look out for the likes of the Mercedes, who had a lot of rear snapping through those high-speed chicanes, as well as I think the Stake Salvers were also struggling quite a bit through those high-speed chicanes, such as in turns 9 and 10. So Lewis Hamilton and George Russell were not looking as happy as they could have been yesterday in their Mercedes challenges, as I said, with a lot of rear snapping in those high-speed sectors. JP also saying Leclerc was looking strong yesterday and hoping he does well in quali today. The Ferraris were next up on my list. They are looking quite strong. I think certainly looking at the form on the field right now, you can never really call it too early. I don't think the Red Bulls have shown their hand just yet, but based off their one-lap pace, I think the Ferraris are looking really quite good. Red Bulls have been focusing a little bit more on their race pace, just having a few looks now at the Mercedes with their rear end sliding as they come through some of those higher speed sectors. But it is a really technical circuit. It's one where you have to manage your top speed for your downforce around here, because you want to have that balance and setup to be able to either go really fast through those technical sectors and through those high-speed sectors, or to have the grip to go really quickly through those downforce sectors, such as in the final sector of the circuits. It is really power dependent. It is really aerodynamic dependent, which makes the setup very, very difficult around here. But Leclerc and the Ferrari seem to have that one lap pace down. Whether they have the degradation and the pace of a race pace, that is what we're going to have to wait and see today. We're going to get a few more quali runs as well today, but I think we should get a lot more of those race runs being finished up. We're seeing some slower race pace being around the 124 mark, and some of the faster cars being in the 122s, 123s for the race. That is looking like our general race pace on the medium tyres. Not too certain what the race pace is going to be like on the soft tyres. Not many people are doing race runs on those, as we don't expect them to really be taking them too far into the race tomorrow afternoon, because the degradation on those tyres are quite high. But it is going to be very interesting. We always see some variation of strategies around the circuit, medium, hard, or soft. But I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a difficult race around here. It's always quite long. There's always a couple of crashes as well. We saw a massive amount of crashes last year in the restart of this race. But just looking at some stats over this Albert Park circuit out here in Australia, it is looking amazing for the start of the session in the next 4 minutes. Just looking at the track distance here, 5.2 kilometers, which is spent at 70% full throttle. Top speed is 339 kilometers an hour with 14 turns and an elevation of 2.45 meters. And the compounds for this race weekend are the softest of the Pirelli range, the C5, C4, and the C3. C5 being the soft, C4 being the medium, and the C3 being the hard. Of course, then the inters and the wets are also available, but hopefully we shouldn't be needing those tyres this race weekend. But just looking over now, as we have 3 minutes left to get going, it is looking a bit gloomy today, not as hot as it was yesterday. As I was saying a little bit earlier, air temperature is 18 degrees Celsius, track temperature is 25.5 degrees Celsius. It is not as windy as it was yesterday, 7.2 kilometers northeasterly wind. It has picked up slightly from the beginning of our stream as it drops back down to 5 kilometers southeasterly. Hopefully the wind does not affect the drivers too much here today. It has been able to affect them quite harshly, especially in the corners that we're looking at right now, which is turns 9 and 10, a really aerodynamic dependent corner. It is really high speed and the wind can affect you quite harshly through there. We've seen in the past the wind push the drivers into the gravel. So hopefully we don't see any of that today. But that is the sector where we have seen some mistakes from the likes of the Mercedes. I think from the Aston Martins as well of Lance Stroll and Fernando Alonso, we saw some mistakes there as well yesterday. The sound mistakes, I think Bottas had a spin through there yesterday as well. So it's a really tricky sector that does seem to catch out a lot of people, especially when their tyres get a little bit more worn. Thank you to everyone watching alongside with me. It is bright and early here in South Africa. I'm sure it's bright and early if you're watching from anywhere within Europe or America. But always very happy to have Formula One on our screens. As we're looking at Alex Albon sitting in his Williams car, or should I rather say Logan Sargent's Williams car, of course, his car being too damaged to continue taking part in this race weekend. So his teammate is going to have to sit out while he takes place, or he continues to race in his car. Unfortunately for Logan Sargent, that means that he has to sit in the garage for the rest of the weekend, but that is the nature of the sport. Sometimes when the other driver has a higher chance of scoring points, then they have to sacrifice the other driver's race weekend. Oscar Piastri, though, in his car getting ready to go out. I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do. The rookie has shown some great pace around this circuit, but will he be able to have some better pace than his teammate Lando Norris? Also looking very neat and tidy out here at this circuit, looking a lot more comfortable than he did last year out. The car is looking a lot more competitive at the start of this year, but the most competitive car so far is what we're really looking at right now, is that Red Bull. It is looking so competitive at every circuit that they go to. The degradation is so low on their tires. You just have to wonder how Adrian Newey is just able to get it so perfect every single time. As Rod Shepherd just says, a very respectable 8:30 a.m. here in Thailand. Well, it is 3:30 at the moment in South Africa, a little bit less friendly here for us. but still here nonetheless. We're seeing now the front wing being changed on that Williams of Alex Albon as Daniel Ricciardo's car is up and still getting ready for him as we see his family in the pit lane. Time has now ticked down to past, so the section should be underway, but we don't see any cars making their way to the end of the pit lane just yet. The green light is now being shown, but as I said, no cars out on circuit just yet. It is not looking as warm as I did mention, but hopefully we should get some running out very soon. Carlos Sainz back in his car this race weekend. Of course, we can't forget that he was unfortunately out last time in Saudi Arabia due to appendicitis. As Venetia says, woke up at 7 a.m. only for Leclerc. He better cook today. Well, we'll have to wait and see what he does in qualifying later this afternoon. Be sure to let us know in the comment section who you think is going to top qualifying. I think it is going to be quite a close session. As the clock is ticking down, we have 58 minutes left of the session. As XR says, it's 1:30 a.m. where they are from. Very, very early for you. I'm sorry about that, but can't apologize for Formula One being on so early in the morning. At least we have something to look forward to for this race weekend, as we have the first car out on track, and it is Oscar Piastri, one of the home drivers for this race weekend. We have two official home drivers and one unofficial Australian driver with Valtteri Bottas doing some brilliant advertising for this race weekend with Uber as well as a couple other sponsors. He is just turning out to be a brilliant marketing tool for Sauber and for Formula One in general. He's just brought so much viewership into Formula One with his antics, and I think a lot of people are really enjoying the mullet from Valtteri Bottas, but it has made him an honorary Australian so far. As we're watching the two McLarens out on a set of hard tyres, so we have the first hard running for this race weekend. Just saying, I feel bad for complaining about it being 7 a.m. for you. Well, I don't think there's all too much to complain about. As I said, we have Formula One on a weekend, so I'm not complaining at all. George Russell's still in the garage right now on the radio, talking to the engineers, so possibly just giving some feedback for how he wants his car set up for today, and then they'll send him out in the car shortly. Looking on at Frederick Vesti, the reserve driver for Mercedes there in the garage, he's made his way out to Australia this race weekend to do the reserve driver stint. So at the moment, we currently have the two McLarens and the two Stake Saubers out on circuit right now. The McLarens have gone and done an installation lap, and they are straight back into the pit. So just seeing how they felt on those hard tyres and then coming back into the pits. I don't know if they're doing a straight pit stop. Yes, they are doing an immediate pit stop to put on a set of medium tyres, and then I think they'll send them out for another installation lap. Piastri's been sent out for another lap, but Lando Norris is straight into the pits. Or the other way around, I should say. So just hearing, unfortunately for Alex Albon, all of his parts from his car have had to be transferred across to that chassis of Logan Sargent. So his gearboxes, his engines, of course, because he doesn't need to go into the allocation for Logan Sargent. And I am hearing he did break his gearbox in that accident in FP1 yesterday, as I did call. He did damage the rear tires, so that normally is an indication of a broken gearbox. As you see now, the Sauber of Valtteri Bottas coming into the pits and putting on a new set of tyres. Daniel Ricciardo looking ready to get into his car. He fed yesterday in practice a P11 and a P12 in practice too. Not phenomenal, but getting a little bit better for the Australian driver. We do expect him to get a lot closer though, and further up than his teammate, which he hasn't necessarily been able to do all that much this year just yet. Sergio Perez, he finished 6th in practice 1 and 8th in practice 2. 0.078 off the fastest time in practice 1 and almost 0.8 seconds off the fastest time in practice too. But we don't know what the run plans were for Red Bull in those practice sessions. They may have been doing more of their race runs, whereas now in this session they may be showing more of their one-lap pace. Sergio Perez is going to be one of the first drivers to put a lap time on the board for the day. So we're watching him go through sector 1 right now. He's not completely hooked up. It looks like he's on another high fuel run, same as yesterday on the set of medium tyres. But he's gone fastest in the first sector, 27.5 through there. Quite hooked up. But as I said, you can see him going a little bit slower because it does look like that car is quite full of fuel. 315 kilometers an hour as he comes down the back straight, 320 kilometers an hour as he approaches turn 9 and 10, looking quite neat through there. No snaps of understeer or oversteer as we've seen from the other teams. Purple in the middle sector as well. Of course, he is the first driver to set a proper lap time for today. Max Verstappen is also out on circuit now, and I'm sure we'll see some fast laps being put in by him very, very shortly. As Russ Ugluknut says, it is 7:30 a.m. for him in Colorado. Thank you very much for joining us. Sergio Perez comes across the line now to finish up his lap time. He, of course, puts himself in first with the first proper lap time of the day with 1:19.206. Be sure to hit like on the video if you're enjoying the content that we are putting out for you, as well as be sure to subscribe to the channel if you want to stay up to date with all the latest Formula One news and get notified when we go live for all of our live streams. Watching now live with, I think this is Max Verstappen's visor. Yes, it is, as he winds up for a hot lap. He comes onto the radio saying, my brakes are not working and they're not biting at all, but he does start a lap now. He was asked, can you continue or do we need to replace them? He says, I'll try again, but we'll have to wait and see what decision he does make. He looked relatively okay in turns 1 and 2, though. So he's looking quite comfortable for me so far through the first sector. Carlos Sainz sitting in the car, his tyres are being put on. He should be out on circuit quite shortly as we're seeing the time start to ramp up now. Max Verstappen 0.2 up already on Sergio Perez's time. Clearly his brakes are working A-OK in that Red Bull. DRS wide open now as he makes his way down the back straight, approaching turns 9 and 10. That really fast chicane, sparks flying off his Red Bull. 0.3 up on Sergio Perez's time through sector 2. Neat and tidy through turns 9 and 10. No issues through there for the Red Bull car. Looks like they are showing a little bit more of their one-lap pace in this session, just winding it up in the beginning, and then they'll go out and do their race runs, hopefully on the hard tyres, as everyone else is seeming to do for this morning session. Verstappen comes through now, turn 14. DRS is wide open. Let's see what lap time he's able to do. It should be a 1:18 for himself. It is a 1:18.591. Not a bad lap time at all for himself in the opening stages of this third practice session. Sergio Perez also just coming onto the radio to complain a little bit about his brakes lacking bite. So not an issue that is only for Max Verstappen, as Sergio Perez is now on the push lap, possibly just checking the tyres at the moment, as he's already 0.1 up on Max Verstappen's time. So just trading lap times between those two drivers right now as they both rub up the circuit, both run down in fuel a little bit more, and just starts to get the feel once again here today. He's 0.3 up in the middle sector on Verstappen's fastest middle sector time. So the circuit is coming alive quite quickly this morning for Sergio Perez and Max Verstappen, and the fuel is just draining out of those cars quite quickly as well. Looking very neat and tidy as he comes through turn 11 and turn 12 now, a really high speed, high downforce sector. Now coming through the second to last corner, turn 13 and now turn 14. DRS is wide open, approaching the start-finish line. Let's see what lap time Sergio Perez is able to do. It should be a low 1:18. He does do a 1:17.927, close to the fastest lap times from yesterday already in the session. Christian Horner just chuckles there a little bit, clearly showing that they knew this pace was possible for themselves today and just not wasting any time at all to get these lap times on the board already. 49 minutes and 45 seconds left of this session. Not a lot of time, of course, in these practice sessions for drivers to get ready for the race on Sunday, but it does allow them to get a little bit ready for qualifying this afternoon, where they'll have to put in the fastest time to get near the top of those time boards, of course, giving you your starting position for tomorrow. But based off the times, I think it should be relatively close between the Red Bulls and the Ferraris. I'm certainly hoping so, at least to give us a bit of an exciting race for tomorrow. I'm really hoping that the Ferraris can have some better race pace as well and some better degradation on their tyres. Sergio Perez was saying brakes were better on that lap, so clearly he just needs to bend them in a little bit more, and now he is happy with those brakes. The 117.9 put in by Sergio Perez was quite close to what we saw from people yesterday on the soft tyres. So I'm just waiting to see what people are going to go on for the rest of the day and see if we do get some more soft tyre running, because then we should get into possibly the 116s even, if this is the pace on the tyres. Manish was saying, why aren't the others coming out? I think because it is still a bit of a green track. We have the majority of the grid still in the pits. We have Lando Norris with no time, Bottas with no time, Zhou no time, Alonso, Stroll no time, Ricciardo, Gasly, Magnussen, Tsunoda, Albon, Hulkenberg, Ocon, Hamilton, and Russell as well with no time. Leclerc is on an outlap. Stroll is also still in the pits, and Sainz is also on an outlap right now. I think he's actually starting his first of the push laps. It is a little bit cooler though than yesterday, so we should expect the lap times to fall a little bit. There are higher levels of grip when the temperatures are slightly lower, depending on the track surface, of course. But out here, it does seem to be a little bit more gripped up in the lower temperatures, as Carlos Sainz is now going through the middle sector, 0.8 down on Verstappen's fastest time. Verstappen, I didn't even notice, went and put in an even faster time out on the board with a 117.510. Carlos Sainz with a little bit of a twitch coming out of turn 12, now coming through turn 13 and now turn 14, the penultimate corner on the track. DRS wide open, approaching that start-finish line, and he puts himself up into third place behind Max and Sergio Perez. For now, a little bit off the pace of those two drivers, but it is his first push lap of the day. We have Pure Blood in the comment section saying, howdy partners, early in the morning here. Thank you very much for joining us, Pure Blood. Just watching on with Logan Sargent in the pits. Not in the race car this race weekend, or at least for the remainder of the race weekend, because his car is being driven by Alexander Albon, who is now on an outlap. Let's see what he can do for this race weekend. He needs to do something in that Williams car to prove that swapping those two drivers and letting him use Logan Sargent's chassis was not all in vain. He needs to score some points for Williams this weekend. That is the goal for them, as now he's ramping up for the start of a hot lap. You still have to wonder, though, why Williams did not bring a spare chassis and a spare tub with them for this race weekend. It is a circuit where we have had crashes before. Pure Blood saying, I think Albon bins it this season. We'll have to wait and see what he does. But he had some great pace last season, which is why they've sacrificed Logan this weekend, because he is the more likely driver to score points. As Coco says, Leclerc usually kills the qualifying round and screws up in the race. It's not necessarily just that, as Max Verstappen goes even faster on his set of mediums with the 117.1, getting really close to that 116 mark. I think it's more the fact that we get strategic blunders from Ferrari, we get bad pit stops, we get the bad calls, and that is normally what kills the race for the Ferraris, as well as the fact that they really struggle on degradation. They are not being able to match the pace, though, so far of the Red Bulls in the beginning of this morning. Leclerc coming through the middle sector now, as I said, not able to match those sector times for Max Verstappen, 1.1 seconds down already in the middle sector. Alex Albon splits the two Ferraris with a 132 at the moment. Not perfect. I think that's still a warm-up lap for himself. Williams were also saying one of the reasons why they did not have a chassis for this race weekend was because of the fact that their production has been slowed down after winter testing and just testing in general. Their cars weren't ready enough, and they found themselves on the back foot once again, and that's why they weren't able to get their chassis out here in Australia. And it's really disappointing. It's hampered the race weekend for both of their drivers. Albon is now driving a car that isn't his, but unfortunately he did crash his own car, and Logan Sargent, of course, is not able to take part in the race weekend at all because of this. Monty's Transport and more just saying it is 1:46 a.m. for them, wherever they may be. Good morning, at least bright and early for some Formula One. We have 43 minutes remaining of the session as Sergio Perez comes into the pits. Both Red Bulls now in the pits as Carlos Sainz puts a more closely suited lap time into those Red Bulls. Now 0.4 seconds off of their times. Alex Albon finishes up another lap for himself with a 1:19.4, still behind the two Ferraris who put in better lap times right now. Still a lot of no times on the board for the majority of the grid. From 6th downwards, they have no time on the board as of yet, as the temperatures are still quite low. But we now have Lewis Hamilton on a set of softs going around the circuit to put in a lap time for himself. Let's see what he can do on a set of softs. Coming to the end of Sector 1, he should be up there. 0.8 down is already his lap time in Sector 1. Not what we wanted to see from the Mercedes. We wanted to see some close lap times from them, but it is looking like they are struggling this race weekend with their setup. We've heard a lot of complaining from Lewis Hamilton and George Russell on the radio, as well as Lewis Hamilton in the presses after practice 1 and 2. Look a little bit neater through the high-speed sector of 9 and 10, but throughout the remainder of the lap, they just look a bit too slow off the pace of everyone else. Yellow flag in sector 2 and 3. Trying to see who is slow. Green flag is shown once again. Lewis Hamilton now finishing up his lap, coming through turn 14. DRS wide open, approaching the start-finish line. He puts himself up into 5th place ahead of Alex Albon, but that is kind of where we would expect him to go, and probably a little bit higher in the set of softs, but not able to take that Mercedes any higher up in the opening stages of the session. George Russell on I would assume, a warm-up lap 5 seconds off the pace of everyone else. Yeah, I hope that's a warm-up lap for himself. We have quite a few more drivers, though, out on circuit. Now, we also have Piastri and Norris, or at least Norris is out on circuit on a set of softs. We have Russell out on circuit, as well as Albon, Hamilton, Sainz and Leclerc. The two Red Bulls are still in the pits. Max Verstappen having a helmet change, possibly just wanting a different coloured visor for himself, maybe because it is quite grey out on circuit today, as Lando Norris is coming around for himself. Good sector 1, waiting to see what a sector 2 time is going to be as he comes down that very long back straight, approaching turns 9 and 10. Let's see how he fares through that tricky sector. Approaching it now, coming through turn 8, turn 9 now, looking neat on the apex through 9. On the apex through 10, DRS is now wide open. Albon moves himself ahead of Lewis Hamilton now as Hamilton comes onto the radio. Lewis Hamilton coming on the radio despite him saying 1.1 off of Verstappen on a medium tyre. He just does not understand how the difference can be so huge already in the session. Manisha just saying he doesn't screw up the race. Max is just unbeatable. I beg to differ there, Manisha. I think Leclerc has had some great races that have been hampered by strategic calls from Ferrari. You can't really defend them all too well. As Manisha says, anyone on pole equals a Max. Well, not necessarily. We've seen a Carlos Sainz win in Singapore, but I do agree. You have to think whoever's on pole, it doesn't really matter. Max can just go and take the win. Carlos Sainz is put in the fastest lap time now, though, with the 1:16.7, 0.3 faster than Max Verstappen. This track really has ramped up now as Biker John is enjoying the session. He's apparently eating McDonald's there, I think. Just watching a replay of Lewis Hamilton coming through here, just watching the rear end, just not turning in where he wanted to a little bit as much, and those sparks coming off the floor of his car as well. Couple more drivers now on circuit. It is really becoming a bit more busy as we have Piastri, Norris, Tsunoda, Zhou, Stroll, Ocon, Hamilton, Russell. I think that is Hulkenberg as well. Gasly, Magnussen, Bottas, Ricciardo, Leclerc, Sainz, and Albon all out on track right now. So a lot busier out on circuit, which is what we want to see, of course. We want to see more lap times being put in by everyone. Daniel Ricciardo also out on circuit, coming through the first sector. What will his first sector time be? He's approaching that first sector marker. How far down will he be? He is 0.6 down in that first sector, which will put him around, hopefully around from Leclerc to Norris, but we'll have to wait and see if he is able to keep that delta around the same throughout the remainder of his lap. 37 minutes remaining of the session. It is going quite quickly as we're seeing one of the McLarens slowing down for some traffic through the middle sector. Daniel Ricciardo now finishing up his lap. Charles Leclerc 0.076 off of Carlos Sainz's lap time in the middle sector, so he is also looking quite hooked up now. What will he be able to do in the final remaining corners of the circuit? Daniel Ricciardo coming through the last two corners now. Through turn 14, DRS is now wide open, and he starts hurtling himself towards that start-finish line. Where can he put himself? He goes up into P9 ahead of Kevin Magnussen with a 1:18.8, I think that was. Albon now coming to finish up a lap time for himself. He's currently in P7. He's not able to improve on his lap time, 1.8 off of that time from Carlos Sainz. Charles Leclerc finishes up his lap, not able to go any faster. He stays in P4 for now. Coco just agreeing with me, saying Ferrari has had bad strategies and a bad crew at times. If Leclerc got the same support as Max gets from Red Bull, he has the potential to be a world champion. Of course, he does have the potential to be a world champion, but in stages as well, he's just not as complete a driver as Max is. Max at times is just a really complete driver, being able to manage the tyres incredibly, being able to manage strategies. We do see him getting quite hot-headed at times as well, but at the moment, Max is just completely at one with his Red Bull car, which we just want to see from Leclerc and from a Ferrari challenger in the future. Cinnamon Ben also just saying, currently 152 in the UK with big hopes for Aston Martin. Thank you so much for your live streams, as this is my only way of having a live feed of the races. Very glad to bring you Formula One coverage, Cinnamon Ben, as we're seeing a massive slide from Charles Leclerc coming into the final two corners. That would have been why he did not improve on his lap time. Ooh, seeing a lot of locking up from, I think that's Fernando Alonso, yes, into the final two corners of the circuit, setting himself up for a hot lap now as he comes through DRS wide open and starts up his lap. Star Alex asking, who do I think is going to get pole for today? Well, I think it's going to be quite close between the Ferraris and the Red Bulls. They're showing some great pace. Carlos Sainz currently with a 1:16.791 out on circuit. Max Verstappen a little bit slower with a 1:17.1, but that was a few laps apart between the two of them. Max Verstappen setting his time first. But we'll have to wait and see what they are able to do throughout the remainder of the day. Of course, we do have qualifying later on this morning, 7 o'clock South Africa time. I don't know what time it is throughout the rest of you. Hamilton being told currently P6, 1.3 seconds to Carlos Sainz. And Hamilton saying, where is all the time, man? 7/10 in the straight line is apparently what he's being told. So they're losing a lot of time in the straights to everyone else. Not what you want to hear from the Mercedes already. Really on the back foot in the practice sessions. Really far off the pace of everyone else right now. So Hamilton's currently sitting in P6, Russell P8, not where we would expect these two Mercedes to be. Fernando Alonso finishing up his lap now, coming through turn 14. He opens up his DRS, approaching the start-finish line. Where will he put himself? Up to P12. He didn't actually open his DRS there, so possibly just aborting his hot lap at the end. Really not good for the Mercedes, who are on a softer tyre, not being able to match the likes of the Ferraris and the Red Bulls on the mediums. Just watching what happened to Fernando Alonso here, I think he got a little bit, it's really odd. He does just completely lock up the brakes on the left and they start smoking. I think that might be a bit of a brake failure for him, possibly even as he approaches the start of his hot lap. Monty's Transport asking who I want to get pole. Well, I think for the sake of the show, it would be nice to get someone different on pole, possibly a McLaren, possibly a Ferrari, maybe an Aston Martin as well. Of course, I think it's very likely it's going to be a Red Bull. As Hulkenberg comes onto the radio saying, I'm getting too much air in my helmet, we need to change it. So just a few little changes there for the Haas driver. Damn it, Dutch saying, can't wait for my boy Albon to get top 10 in Sargent's car. Yes, it will be probably the only time Sargent will get his car into the top 10 all season, and he's not even driving it. Malicious saying, sad for Logan, unfair. It is and it isn't. Unfortunately, when you do have a team that is struggling for points and that really needs to get points in the season, you have to put in your better driver. You can't have the driver that has the higher likelihood of scoring points not in the car for the entire weekend. Daniel Ricciardo coming through the circuit now. Leclerc up on Carlos Sainz's time through the middle sector. We'll have to wait and see what he's able to do throughout the remainder of his lap. Daniel Ricciardo improving on his lap time. Magnussen improves on his lap time. He goes up to P7. Piastri improves on his lap time now with a 1:17.8 for P6. He's on a set of soft tyres though. Once again, the soft tyres being slower than the mediums around here. Daniel Ricciardo finishing up his lap time now. Where would he put himself? He finishes with a 1:18.8. Once again, it still stays down in 15th place though. Leclerc finishes up his lap time for a P2 with a 1:17.087. Currently Ferrari, Red Bull for the session. As Rainforce says, can't wait for Daniel Ricciardo to score points. We'll have to see what happens for Daniel Ricciardo. He does seem to be struggling a little bit this season. Once again, he does not seem to be able to find his mojo back, which is really disappointing. I was hoping that we'd get Daniel Ricciardo of old once he got into that Toro Rosso seat, but he just does not seem to be coming right from his McLaren and Alpine woes. Lewis Hamilton making his way around circuit again, trying to pick up the pace a little bit better. 0.04 off of Carlos Sainz's first sector time. Manisha saying if Leclerc's on pole, then Max for real. Just trying to see the rest of that comment as it's being a little bit covered up. If Leclerc pole, then Max for real on the other way around. I don't really know what you're trying to say there, but yeah, I think there is a high likelihood of Max or Verstappen being on pole for the race on Sunday, but I would love to see another driver just throwing their name in the hat there, as it just makes things really exciting. Nika's saying, Albon, crash please. We don't want that here. Please don't ask for drivers to crash. That's not very nice. But I think he's going to have a much better performance this race weekend than what Logan Sargent was ever able to do. There we go. Manish is just saying front row. If Leclerc is on pole, then Max definitely on the front row, or the other way around. Yes, I do agree. Busy track out there at the moment with only a handful of drivers in the pits. We have Sainz and Leclerc in the pits, Piastri in the pits, as well as Albon in the pits, as Lewis Hamilton gets a little bit loose through the final sector, just going a little bit wide and going into the gravel, but luckily being able to catch it and keep it on the circuit. Very, very busy circuit right now. A lot different to what I was expecting. I was expecting a little bit more of the long runs today, but people are going straight out onto the softs and the mediums. It's Pure Blood saying Russell is going to destroy Hamilton this season to go 2-1 in sessions. Research Speedrunner saying, imagine Albon crashes again. Surely Valves will boot Logan Sargent this time. I really hope he doesn't crash because, of course, they've only got one chassis for the remainder of this race weekend. And if he bins that, then unfortunately it is all over for the Williams team, and they've come all this way for nothing. But I think Albon should be able to pick it up a little bit better, be able to just make his way back. Monty's Transport saying, I remember back in 1 year, I think it was 2018, Verstappen hit his teammate Ricciardo. It was the other way around. The year after in Australia, Daniel Ricciardo had to retire the car, and that was his first year at Renault. It was actually Daniel Ricciardo that went into the back of Max, but it was both of them that caused that crash there. Yeah, we've seen some big accidents between teammates in the past, but we'll just have to wait and see what happens here this race weekend. I did see a radio there from Charles Leclerc, so I've just gone back in time to see what happened there. Leclerc came onto the radio to say there's one thing that is certain, is that you get an Aston Martin at one point in the middle of your lap, or the beeping time. So just getting upset a little bit with traffic out here on circuit. It is a very short lap that you have, so unfortunately you are highly likely to encounter some traffic. As David Dutch says, I think Ferrari are going to get his poorer version of Alonso in Hamilton if Sainz ends up going to Merc. Merc won the trade big time. Star Alex saying Sainz is a really good performance after only having 10 days of rest after surgery. Do I agree? Yes, of course. I mean, brilliant comeback for himself. To be able to get back up to racing fitness in the car after having a surgery is not an easy feat at all. So well done to himself. Just watching Daniel Ricciardo coming through the final sector now. He's down on his middle sector time, up on his first sector, trying to improve himself. He's currently down in P16. His teammates up in P13. As Damage Judge says, Norris ruining up the perfect top half of the grid. Where is Norris right now? Norris is down on P12. I hope he can pick himself up a little bit higher than that. But let's just say, yes, of course. But then again, appendicitis surgery is not much of a big deal. Yes and no. It can affect, of course, your fitness when you take so much time off in between races. But still phenomenal from Carlos Sainz to get back into the car and get back up to racing fitness. These guys do, of course, have the best surgeons in the world, so they are able to bounce back. He was back on circuit the next day after a surgery to come and watch the race and watch the rookie of Oliver Behrman in his car. But brilliant to see him back in the car and doing really well with the fastest lap time so far of the session. JP saying, very interesting these times with Ferrari, Red Bull and Williams on mediums and everyone else on softs. Is there much performance difference? Well, I was saying a little bit earlier, it looks like the mediums, you are able to just continue pushing throughout the lap and extract a little bit more performance out of it. Just watching a replay here from Magnussen, or Hulkenberg rather, he gets super close to the wall, 15 centimeters close to the wall in turn 9. I do think that the mediums seem to have a little bit more pace. I wonder if you're just able to push them a little bit further throughout the lap, whereas the softs start to die throughout the end sectors of the lap. I wonder if that is it, or if they just haven't really pushed yet on a set of softs. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what tyre people choose to do in qualifying. Trolltastic saying, can we watch F1 for free? Not on YouTube, as there is a lot of copyright law around that. But of course, you can watch it for free on our channel. We'll bring you all of the latest updates and we'll bring you all the live timings as well. So if you want to watch Formula One on our channel, of course, you can hit that subscribe button. We do bring you all of the Formula One coverage for every single race weekend. And we are now doing the Moto GP as well. So you can watch that also on this Forever Motorsports channel. Manisha's just saying, of course, I'm not discrediting Sainz's amazing comeback. Yeah, I mean, he has done very, very well. Verstappen finishing up a race pace lap by the looks of things here. Slow in sector 1 and sector 2. Looks like he is on some heavy fuel loads. Star Alex saying, I'm so proud of his performance right now, as well as Coco saying it was a smooth operation. And then Cinnamon Ben saying, what do I think to Alonso and Stroll's team up at Aston? They're certainly doing quite well at the moment, but not being able to really match the pace just yet of the Mercedes, Red Bulls, and Ferraris. Monty's Transport just saying it would be nice if Daniel could get some points at his home race. It would be very nice, but it is looking quite difficult for himself. Star Alex asking, do I think that Alpine would get out from the back of the grid? I think that's a big feat for them this year. They have got quite a lot of turmoil within the team, within the admin side of the team at least, because there's a lot of changes happening within the higher-ups. Management positions are all changing, and they've now gotten some more team members, but it does take quite a bit of time for stability in a team. And to get points and score points consistently, you do have to have quite a bit of stability in getting your team more organized. But looking at a couple other comments, would Lando and Alonso be a great team for Aston Martin? I don't think Lando would be moving from McLaren anytime soon. He is quite stuck there for the time being. Damn Judge saying whoever's getting Sainz next season is winning the lottery. Yes, they certainly are. Ferrari are making a big mistake, I think, letting go of Carlos Sainz. But what you do, it's either you lose Carlos Sainz or you gain Lewis Hamilton. Either way, you're losing a really good driver, but you're also gaining a brilliant one. Research Speedometer saying Carlos Sainz using Logan Sargent's appendix for this Grand Prix. Damn it Dutch saying Ricciardo over Piastri, a 1-2 would be cool. It would be brilliant, but of course, I don't think Daniel Ricciardo is going to get anywhere near the top 10. Manisha saying it's just business, nothing to regret, TBH. Yeah, unfortunately, that is how things go in Formula One. You can't take it personally. Yeah, it's just business, really. Trolltastic saying, where are you going? Professional onto the big screens as a caster. You have a great time. Thank you very much, Trolltastic. I do have a full-time day job as a sound engineer, but this is what I enjoy doing on the weekends. It is, of course, my passion, Formula One. As Josh Thunder, trying to get your surname there, Thunder Trisha, saying, who do you think is going to win this race? Well, there's a very boring answer. I can give you a boring answer, which is the most likely, unfortunately, or I can give you a bit of a fun answer. I'm going to say Carlos Sainz for fun, but the more logical answer would be Max Verstappen in that Red Bull, who has just been super, super dominant all season. Damage Judge saying it's hard to bet against Max right now, but Leclerc is looking really good recently. He is looking really good. I hope the Ferraris are able to pick up the pace, especially their race pace, to be able to match those Red Bulls who have just been a leap above the rest. I want to see them just being challenged in the races, at least, just not being able to run away with things. Alex Albon, 0.1 down in sector 2 of Carlos Sainz's time. That Williams is looking quite competitive. I did call it. They are on a set of softs though right now. Piastri, 0.1 down on Carlos Sainz's time on a set of softs as well. Josh saying, okay, let's go Max and Red Bull cars. Manisha saying, yes, true, but then again, he's always been very strong. We need wins. I assume that's talking about Charles Leclerc. Cinnamon Ben saying, I think Sainz would do better with a better team, and whoever does, like everyone has and said would win the lottery. Yeah, he certainly would be going into a team that has won the lottery with him. He has got so much talent. We've seen that from his early days in Toro Rosso when he was alongside Max Verstappen in his McLaren days as well, showing some great, great talent. Trolltastic asking, who is my favorite team, favorite driver currently, and why? Well, favorite drivers, I think Max Verstappen is just so dominant right now. He is absolutely phenomenal. I do support a bunch of drivers though throughout the grid. I love Fernando Alonso being in the sports at his age, just showing it to the youngsters. I love that. A brilliant comeback story. After going away to World Endurance Championship for a couple of years, we thought his time in Formula One was done. And he came back and just proved it to us, going, I'm not too old. I'm going to come and show these youngsters. As Alex Albon gets a little bit loose in turn 9, he comes onto the radio just to complain a little bit about that. But I think my favorite team would be, from a branding standpoint, I love McLaren. McLaren are phenomenal. We've had the likes of Ayrton Senna coming through in the past. We've had some brilliant names through there as well. Just the history of McLaren is just so beautiful, and I'd love to see them as well getting back to winning ways. But I think my favorite team combo right now would also have to be the Ferrari. So a mixture of answers there for you, but yeah, you'll have to take it as it comes. Sydney saying, do you think Max will win tomorrow? I think the likelihood of that is really, really high. I think let's put it at around 80%. Johnny Marco asking, I have Ferrari and Leclerc in my fantasy team. They are doing work. Yes, they certainly are. So Alex saying, I think Ferrari has a big chance this weekend to break Max's 10 race winning streak, especially with the performance that they have right now. Of course, they have phenomenal one-lap pace. It is their race pace that really needs to come together this race weekend if they want to challenge those Red Bulls. Research speedrunner saying Sainz to Mercedes more than very likely, to be honest. David Dutch saying Sainz needs to avoid Alpine and he can go anywhere else. In 2026, it will be free for all, so it really won't matter where he is as long as he believes in the car development. I think Audi is a big possibility for him. Of course, his father has massive ties to Audi, being a Dakar driver and has been with Audi for years. I think that would be a partnership that Audi would certainly be looking to line up. Whether that's going to be feasible for them, though, with Carlos Sainz, a big name driver, we'll have to wait to see. Piastri goes fastest in Sector 1 now as the track is starting to light up. Some people doing long runs, some people starting at their push laps once again. Charles Leclerc pushing through the middle sector now. He is 1 second down, though, but this is looking like some race pace for him. Manisha saying Sainz to Mercedes is very likely. I agree on that. It is looking very likely. As Cinnamon Ben saying that's the reason why Alonso is my favorite driver. Certainly is one of the reasons why he's my favorite driver as well. Manisha saying 2026 free fall. What do you mean? Well, 2026, a lot of drivers' contracts are coming to an end at the end of this season. So we have the likes of Carlos Sainz with no contract. I'm trying to think of who else. A lot of drivers are getting secured, with the likes of both McLaren drivers having their contracts secured. Piastri finishes up his lap time. He moves up to P3 with the 117.087, moving a little bit closer to those two Ferrari drivers, splitting the two Red Bulls. Albon just saying he thinks he pushed a little bit too much on the outlap and that killed the tyres a little bit. As Manisha just saying, more understanding why there's a free-for-all in 2026. Damn it, Dutch saying, and a complete engine change. Yes, I forgot about that. There is a regulation change and a bit of an engine change as well for that season, which just means drivers could switch teams and really land their bums in the butter in a really competitive team. I think Audi are going to be quite competitive from the outset. Lance Stroll matching Carlos Sainz's time through the first sector, 0.008 up on that time. Down the judge saying Red Bull going with their own engine is risky. It certainly is, but it could also pay off quite well for them. They've been a customer team for so long. It is time that they do just go and produce their own engines, really. They have the funds to be able to do it. As Down the judge also says, Piastri is flying out on circuit. Coco saying Ferrari started the season pretty well. Winning against Red Bull is hard to imagine, though. Research speedometer also saying Red Bull is probably already building an engine for 2026 with Ford, hence why Hamilton's complaining about it. Yes, they have. I've already seen some videos where you could hear them doing some testing of that 2026 engine, and it does sound quite dominant already. But they are limited in what they can do in terms of the development so that they can't run away from all of the other teams. Alonso now on a hot lap for himself on a set of mediums, or set of softs rather, I should say, 0.3 down on Sainz's fastest lap time. Cinnamon Ben saying, do you think that some of the smaller names companies should get a bigger budget in order to catch up with the more advanced companies like Red Bull? Well, that is why we now have a budget cap where everyone is limited to the same amount of money that they can spend, Whether they have those funds available to them is another question. But I think it does help just change the disparity from the top of the field to the bottom. As well as, of course, we do have the regulations that allow for those bottom teams to get more aerodynamic testing to catch up to the top teams. But that's also why we do have the sliding scales in the winnings, where it does allow some of those smaller teams to get a little bit bigger cut of the prize pool. Damn it, Judge saying engine is going to be using different fuel mixture. Also very curious as to what the effect is going to be on the cars. Yes, of course, they're moving towards those sustainable fuels. I think they are ethanol-based fuels that they are moving towards. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how those engines fare, what the difference is going to be for the drivers as well. I'm really looking forward to it. I think we need to move towards a more sustainable fuel for Formula One if we want to stay at the forefront of technology and development in the car industry, as we see a big puff of smoke coming out the back of Lando Norris's car as he goes a little bit wide into turn 10. He's up in sector 1 and 2 on himself. So Manish asked him what did Leclerc say on the radio before. He said something on the radio quite a while ago, Manish. Sorry, it's a little bit too late for that. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting going into 2026 to see what does happen with all of those new engine regulations and the new car regulations. Cars are supposed to be moving a little bit smaller in footprints, which is great. We want to see smaller cars, lighter cars as well for better racing. Damage just saying poor Sauber. Yeah, they're really at the back of the grid right now with Pierre Gasly. Only 19 cars though for the rest of this race weekend because, of course, Alex Albon did destroy his chassis, so he is racing in Logan Sargent's chassis for the rest of this weekend, and Logan Sargent is having to sit out. Thank you very much for joining me in the comment section, though. It does make my morning a little bit easier being able to chat alongside all of you as we have 30 minutes left of this session. Now we have Oscar Piastri being pushed back into his garage, watching a replay from George Russell, getting a little bit wide into turn 13 and now turn 14. He's just complaining that he had Lewis at the end of his lap there, just reeling it. I think he had a little bit of a gap still, but he feels that he was a little bit too close, unfortunately. Monty's Transport saying, go Daniel, leave the pits and grab some points. Daniel Ricciardo is currently sitting in P16. I don't know if he's going to be able to improve himself too much this race weekend. He does seem to be struggling a little bit in that Racing Bull car. Joe Guanyu starting or finishing up a hot lap for himself. He moves himself up into P16 ahead of Daniel Ricciardo now. TC saying, good morning. Is Lewis doing any better in FP3? Not really. Still seems to be struggling a little bit with balance. He's down in P8 at the moment. His teammate George Russell up in P6. As we're watching with Zhou Guanyu's mum, watching on Lewis Hamilton on another push lap now, really finding the edge of the circuit, getting super close to the grass there. Valtteri Bottas also on a flyer right now. Lewis Hamilton, will he be able to go any higher up? As Lucas asking, who is a Hamilton fan in the comment section, go Mercedes, he says, as TC says, thanks for the update there. Max is still in the pit, asks Josh. I think he is at the moment. He's on an out lap, as you say that, though. So good timing for that. As Bottas is getting a brilliant slipstream from Lando Norris to finish up his lap, he moves himself up now into P12. Hulkenberg finishes up his lap time. He goes ahead of his teammate for P13. We have 11 minutes and 20 seconds as Hamilton now moves himself up to P2. Much better for himself there. 0.15 down on Carlos Sainz's fast time on a set of softs. We would expect, though, the rest of these drivers to go out on a set of softs now and put in some representative times. Max Verstappen now coming across the line. He's starting a hot lap for himself. Josh is going to be happy with that, as Lucas says yes. For those Mercedes fans. Max Verstappen on a set of softs. He's going to be putting in his first representative times on the set of softs as the sun has now come out to shine over the circuit, as Lucas says, go Hamilton. Let's see what Max Verstappen can do as he comes up towards that first sector marker. He is 0.048 down on Carlos Sainz's first sector time there. He's down on his own sector time through there, so Max can pick up a little bit more pace, but he does find some traffic now in the middle sector. Verstappen is up in the middle sector now on Carlos Sainz. So will he be able to get further up throughout the rest of this lap? He is down on his own sector times, so let's see what he's going to do. Star Alex saying Hamilton is having a really amazing time. Do you think he may have a chance for podium tomorrow, as of course tomorrow is the race? Lucas saying yes, he would definitely, as you have 10 minutes left on the clock for the remainder of this session. Well, we'll have to wait and see what their race pace is like. Of course, their one-lap pace is very important for their qualifying position, but their race pace is the most important, as Max Verstappen finishes up his lap time with a 1:12 or 1:17.2 rather. Not good enough, but he will be able to set himself for another lap time. George Russell finishing up a lap for himself now. He puts himself up into P3. Daniel Ricciardo moves himself up into P12 now, which is much better. Star Alex saying, I forgot it's tomorrow. Yes, it is still early, Star Alex, so I will forgive you for that. Josh just saying, come on, Max, let's climb that ladder to number 1. I'm sure we will see his time getting a lot faster as the session comes to a close. Looking at Lauren Mecky's the team principal of Racing Bulls, looking over all the data and seeing what his 2 drivers are doing. Daniel Ricciardo up in P12, Yuki Tsunoda down in P16. Yuki Tsunoda is on a outlap though at the moment. As Lucas says, he has subbed to the channel. Thank you very much. Of course, if you're not subbed to the channel, please do be sure to do that, as we have 300 of you watching alongside with us. Where will Max start tomorrow, says Sydney. Well, we'll have to wait and see what happens in qualifying later on this morning. I was going to say this afternoon, but it is in about 2 and a bit hours time. As Star Alex says, Mercedes is doing a really good job all of a sudden. Yes, they just seem to have found their balance a little bit better. They seem to have fixed the rear oversteer issues that they were having in FP1 and FP2. As Old Man Bruce says, hello, all amazing. Hoping to see the Australians doing well. Of course, I was amazed to see how many people turned on Daniel Rick in the past 2 weeks. The car seemed pretty ordinary and he's not gelling with it at all. Yeah, it is a bit different this season from last season. It is a completely different car fundamentally. They've gone more towards the Red Bull style from 2023, which is a lot different to how that car was behaving from last season. So they both have to relearn it. Did Yuki Tsunoda and Daniel Ricciardo. Tsunoda is finishing up a hot lap right now. I'm waiting to see where he's going to put himself in relation to Daniel Ricciardo. Of course, that is his benchmark, his teammates. Bit of a lockup into turn 13, coming through turn 14 now. DRS wide open, approaching the start-finish line to finish up his lap. Where does he put himself? He goes up into P9 ahead of his teammates in P16 once again. F1 23, the only race this season that I don't need to stay up late or wake up early for. Glad to hear that it is a bit better for you. It isn't for us. It is currently 4:23 in South Africa. As Damage Judge says, he needs to qualify first. No clue where he'll start. Carlos Sainz going even faster out on circuit right now on the set of softs. He has gone purple in the first sector. 6 minutes and 50 seconds left of this session. As Cinnamon Ben says, I'm just wondering what Aston Martin's plan is, as they started great and now have dropped quite a bit. I'm waiting to see what their true potential is out on circuit, as Carlos Sainz has not improved on his middle sector. Improved in the first sector with a purple time, yellow in the middle sector. Sergio Perez is getting greens out on circuit now, as well as Lewis Hamilton is also starting to push. Trolltastic asking, have I done any racing before? No, I haven't, unfortunately. I wish I had. It is quite expensive, though, out in South Africa. I do wish I had some experience, though, in racing. But Carlos Sainz has put another lap time in for himself, a 1:16.7, not improving himself. As Biker John says, podium, no, Lulu will be lucky to be in the points. I disagree with that. I think Lewis Hamilton and the two Mercedes have found a little bit more pace out here, but we'll have to wait and see what their race pace is going to be for the race tomorrow. As Lewis Hamilton now comes up to finish a lap time, where does he put himself? 0.9 behind Carlos Sainz's time with a 1:16.989. So looking a little bit more hooked up on circuit right now, but Carlos Sainz is still looking like the form of the field on those mediums from his lap time earlier. Just watching a replay from Lewis Hamilton, did he get a little bit of a snap? Yes, he did. He got a bit of a snap into the entry of turn 14, so that would have caused him to lose a couple tenths, which is really all that he had in hand to Carlos Sainz ahead of him. But it is showing that the margins are really, really close. Monty asking, do I agree with Hamilton's move to Ferrari? I certainly think it is the right decision, as George Russell now goes purple in the first sector. I think he's nearing the end of his career. You can't really fault him for making a big choice in changing teams. I don't really think he had any major risks in making that decision. He's earning a massive payday in Ferrari. It's going to be phenomenal for him, I'm sure, if that car is competitive and he can get that 8 World Championship, which is what people are wanting for himself, of course. But it's going to be very, very interesting to see what the true pace is of that Ferrari next season once Hamilton gets in. If he isn't happy, I'm sure he will make himself very, very clear on that. As Josh says, last 5 minutes, pick it up, Max. I need you to start number 1. Well, Max Verstappen has put in the fastest sector 2 time now, so waiting for Max to finish up his lap, just seeing where he is on the board. He has finished up that lap. I wonder if he aborted it and is now just going on another slowdown lap before he starts again. Flippy saying it's 2 a.m. for him, but anything to see Yuki stick it into P9, as Biker John just has a little bit of a laugh there. Yeah, it's looking like people are really starting to show their true pace now, as Lucas says Max should join Lewis at Ferrari, but unfortunately there is Max Verstappen coming onto the radio saying, I don't know why in the high speed I can't go faster compared to the medium. The tyres move around too much. So just looking like he's unhappy at the moment on the soft tyres compared to the mediums. But going back to Max should join Lewis at Ferrari. Ferrari's currently full. They're definitely not letting go of their star driver, Charles Leclerc, all just yet. As Cinnamon Ben says, come on, Stroll, get higher. Yeah, Alonso is currently in P10 with Stroll down in P13. I'm waiting to see the true performance of these Aston Martins. I thought they had a lot more time in hand, as Alonso goes 0.2 down on Carlos Sainz's time in Sector 1, slower for himself than he's ever done. Monty's saying Max and Lewis would certainly be interesting as teammates. I think it would be quite a difficult team to manage if you had Max and Lewis, some big personalities in the same team. Alonso still seeming to struggle a little bit better in the middle sector for himself, but not improving all too much as what we would expect. Yanni just saying Max is staying at Red Bull or going to Aston Martin. Interesting call there for that. As Cinnamon Ben says, Alonso's really pushing already, catching up with Stroll. Well, he's ahead of Stroll. Stroll has finished up his lap time, put himself into P8. Alonso's going to finish up his lap shortly as well. He puts himself into P9 now behind Stroll. Damadust says Yuki ruining Ricciardo's career 1 race at a time at the moment. If Danny can't put his car next to Yuki, at least I can see Lawson getting put in halfway through the season. I did call that yesterday. I think it would be pretty understandable, really, for Red Bull, because you've got this team that is meant to be a feeder team for Red Bull, and you've got an older racing driver who you thought would just get in there and be a spearhead for the team, and he's really not doing really well at all. Biker John saying Max still Aston Martin in 2026. I don't know if that is possible. Max Verstappen, I think, is tied down, if I'm correct, to 2028 in his Red Bull contract. Of course, he does have exit clauses, but we'll have to wait and see what the drive market does do in the next couple of years. Carlos Sainz on another flyer, 0.1 up on his own time, as Sergio Perez is also on a flyer in the first sector. Of course, this is only practice 3. We have 1 minute remaining of this practice session, but then we do have qualifying a little bit later this morning. And just saying, I bet on practice, but just seeing where Max would come in. Unfortunately, Max and Red Bull don't often show their true pace in practice. They want to get their setup absolutely perfect before the session does start. Sergio Perez now finishing up his lap. He puts himself up into P5. Damage up saying, damn, that's some risky business. Betting on practice. Josh saying, haha, of course, I bet on everything. And Manisha saying, what is Leclerc doing? He was good yesterday. He's down in P3 though, 0.033 down on the fastest lap time. I don't think we can call him out on his lap times just yet. It is, as we've said, only the practice session, so we should see some better lap times being put in now at the end as we click down to the end of the timer. 4, 3, 2, 1, and the practice 3 is now over. People will finish up their final lap times, and then we will get the end of the session. But it has been very, very interesting. It's been very busy out on circuit. A lot of lap times being traded at the top of the time boards, but Carlos Sainz has got right now the fastest time with 1:16.7. Max Verstappen is going to try and beat that, though. He has gone fastest in the middle sector. Josh will be very happy to hear that, as he has got some bets on the sector. Fastest in sector 2 is Max Verstappen. He's coming now through the final sector. Where will he put himself? DRS wide open, approaches that start-finish line. Josh will be sitting on the edge of his seat as Max Verstappen does go now into P1 with a 1:16.7. And Josh will be very, very happy to see that. Alonso now finishing up his lap time. Where can he put himself? Waiting to see a more representative time from the Aston Martin. He is having to fight with the steering wheel a little bit, but he is now finishing up, and he finishes in P6. Trolltastic saying, I'm going to be watching Formula 1 live through websites mentioned below. Rather just watch it with us, Trolltastic. As Josh says, practice. Thank you, Mr. Commentator from Cinema Ben. Thank you very much for joining us on our stream here, as everyone is now finishing up their laps. Damn it, Dutch says, congrats, Josh, you've made some money. Hopefully you've made some money at least through your bets, as Verstappen actually loses out at the last second to Charles Leclerc by 0.02. So unfortunately, he does not. At the last second, he loses out on that top spot to Charles Leclerc. So sorry, Josh, about that. But very, very competitive in the closing stages of this practice session. I'm hoping that bodes well for qualifying. That is coming later on. So do be sure to join us for that. Damn it, Dutch asking how long until Quali 1. Quali 1 does start at 7 a.m. South Africa time. So that is in 2.5 hours, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, 2.5 hours. So do be sure to join us for that. Thank you very much, though, for joining us for this practice 3 session. Very, very interesting. No crashes, thankfully, in this session. So at least Alex Albon can be sighing a bit of relief, as Josh says there, had me stressing. TC says, thanks a lot. Thank you very much for joining us. I've been Reese here on Forever Motorsports. I'm going to be signing out now, and I'll see you for qualifying later on. Cheers.